back and bigger than ever. It's the Unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carey, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, we are back. It is the Unofficial 40 podcast right here on Soonerscoop.com, where we've given Bob the day off. I mean, actually, he's going to come join us for a little bit of a hoops preview for the Big 12 Championships tournament that's going on. And, kudos to Bob Prisbillo. I mean, what a miserable existence he's lived since the season started. It's finally almost over. Although, as Eddie pointed out, if they win them all, the NCAA won't be able to keep them out.
It's fact and fact.
They're going to win 4 games?
4 games in a row. They got to win. They got to win 4 games in a row. They haven't won back-to-back games since December 17th and 20th of last year. So they haven't done it in the calendar year. But I fully expect them to win 4 games in a row going into Kansas City at the T-Mobile Center this week. So, yeah, good luck to them. Bedlam edition number 3 coming up Wednesday night, 8:30. Everybody's pretty jazzed about it.
Josh McQuiston joining us from his homestead. Josh, how are we doing this week?
I'm great. I'm wondering why we're half-assing it, though. 4 games? 11. Let's get this team through 11 straight wins, and they can cut down the nets, and everybody's happy, and Porter Moser is, got this program right where we think he does.
I don't appreciate your patronizing of Oklahoma basketball, but that's the type of attitude that they're going to need. Tanner Groves coming off of his maybe his best game of his career in his final home game at Oklahoma with 23 and I don't even remember what it was, 23 and 10, 23 and 13, something like that.
George Stoya is joining us, his first full foray into the podcast without Bob, so more airtime for you maybe. I think I might be putting an end to conference room, not small talk, but just banter. As George admitted some things to me yesterday about his mom and his dad, and one of their concerns about you on this podcast. Of course, your mother apparently is trying to raise you right. You're not raised yet completely, apparently. Your dad is all for you dropping F-bombs on this podcast, and your mom is very concerned about it.
Yeah.
And drunk pods. She's very concerned about drunk pods.
Yeah, that was part of the...
I'll drive back to downtown Oklahoma City.
That was part of the contractual agreement was no drunk pods, according to my mom. So, yeah, we've been sharing... I'm a week in now, and we've been sharing family secrets now on the pod, so...
Now, Karen Radosevich is one of my favorite people on this earth. She has single-handedly kept Sooner Scoop store afloat.
That's right.
She is. I'm not kidding. I think Karen Radosevich is the leading customer in sales.
Well, it's not
dollars.
all for the family.
She buys a lot of shit, and I love it.
It gets spread out amongst the.
She's got to go back to Chicago.
Yeah, it's going everywhere. The Sooner Scoop brand is rather strong.
So can we talk about what's your mom's name, just so we can when we address her, we know.
Trish.
Oh, it's another Trish. I know a lot of Trishes.
Trish the Dish, actually.
You can't steal that from Barry Trammell.
My dad's been calling her Trish the Dish since the beginning of time, and it's a thing that he wants to bring in with Barry himself at some point.
Did you say that they met in Bartlesville, or they were from Bartlesville?
They met on Campus Corner, right?
They met at the original O'Connell's, but they're both from Bartlesville.
Okay, I was born in Bartlesville, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad went to Sooner High, which is no longer there. It's now just one high school. I think just Bartlesville High School. But
did he know the Drummonds?
I have no idea. I'm sure.
Terrible people, the Drummonds.
I don't even know. I don't know who they
serious.
are. No comment.
Ree Drummond, the Pioneer Woman?
Oh, her. I think my family knows them. I'm not sure.
We have disavowed the Drummonds on the morning show, Carey, because she wouldn't invite us up to do the show from
Pawnee or whatever it is.
Yeah, from the whatever they call the kitchen place up there. So we are full on Trisha Yearwood.
Is it Pawhuska?
Pawhuska, that's right.
Yeah, that's the area.
The only reason I know about her is because when I was a kid, we didn't go on the big fancy spring break trips, but one spring break, my mom was like, we're going to go to Pawhuska to see the Pioneer Woman.
Oh, man.
And I think I was in high school.
I think you told me that your mom's big into the diners, drive-ins, and dives. As well,
yeah.
Which I love.
Yeah, she's into that stuff. And so we went out there. I thought when she said Pioneer Woman, I thought it was just like a big statue. Like we were going to go see like a statue of a pioneer
of like
woman.
a lady from the Old West.
Yeah.
Like, that she was on a Conestoga wagon or something.
Yeah, instead we sat in line for some cooking supplies for like 2 hours. And I was like, this is the worst.
And the line was like out the door.
Yeah, I was like, this is the worst spring break trip ever.
I mean, that's when you got a real racket going, is when people are lined up to buy stuff. Like, they will wait in a line to buy stuff. That's when you know you're successful.
Yeah, it was like 50-year-old white women just all lined up to go buy this, this special pan or something. And I was like, why do we do this?
I'd love to know how many of our listeners, like myself, just felt extremely dated when George, I was in high school and went over to see the Pioneer Woman. Like, I'm like, she's been only a part of my adult life. Like, I have no, that woman was not a thing when I was anything less probably than a father. So I'm like, good Lord, I'm old. Like, it was just that was a jarring thing to think about and hear. And I know it's totally honest and real, but it's yet another reality of how much older I am than young and talented George.
Isn't Dree Rumman isn't she built her empire kind of just on like old Red Book recipes or Reader's Digest? Do they have recipes in those things?
I have no idea.
She's not like a chef or anything. She's just a home cook. Like, it's just like
she's on TV though, isn't she? She's
on Food Network. Yeah. She has her own show like on Sundays, and that ruins my whole Sunday. When that's on.
She only has one recipe that I make, and I cook a fair amount in our house. She's got a chicken masala that I make pretty regular. That it's really, really good.
I think that should be a summer scoop HD special. Is cooking with Josh in the kitchen.
Oh my god!
Oh, he's got the perfect kitchen set up for it.
Yeah,
he's got that big island. We get multiple camera angles.
Because we had a big one in our old house, and my wife and Tiffany was always kind of sad, like, oh, we're gonna lose this one. I think this thing's bigger. It's huge. Like she has to find these things, and perfect to tie into what we're talking about. She'll go over to like the Round Top and all the little just like what you're talking about, George, with Pioneer Woman, like where all the mothers and from whatever age to the next. I was not going to say middle age in reference to my wife because she will listen and I will hear that shit, but. And she has to buy these massive decorative things to put in this island because anything else, like a normal bowl that would go in the middle of an island or a table, it looks stupid. Like, it looks ridiculous. So she has to find these things. And now we've got a piece that, it may be the door from the Titanic that old girl was floating on. Like, it's humongous, and it just looks like it belongs on our island. It's the weirdest damn thing ever. But, yeah, so... totally important conversation we're having for everybody to listen to.
I'm just going to go ahead and put it in the rundown. You can start listening now.
Actually, wait a little bit longer because I have one more question.
I've been here the entire time, and I'm not even listening.
I have one more question for George about Trisha. Is it Trish or Trisha?
Trish.
Is she, where does Oklahoma play? They play at Baylor next year, right?
No, they don't. They don't play Baylor. They don't play Baylor next year.
Was your mom hoping to go on the road trip with you to go to Magnolia Farm or whatever that place is?
No, I don't think so.
Yet another white woman that people stand in line to give her money.
Yeah, no, I mean, maybe she would say that, but I'm not sure. I was going to say we need to just have her on the podcast, and I'm sure she would have some really good stuff to say. She's going to be mad that I even brought her up, or I guess you're the one that brought her up.
Yes.
But yeah,
that's actually, Eddie will tell you, that's a tradition. We piss people's families off early on in their pod careers.
Well, I was going to say she needs to meet.
There was a baby incident we're not supposed to talk about, and now this.
She needs to meet Tiffany because it sounds like they're pretty similar. Because when I was moving into my apartment, my mom kept asking, "Oh, do you want to buy these nice plates and all these things?" I was like, "I just need paper plates and plastic, silverware."
You're going through Dillard's I'm not registering for a wedding, Mom.
Yeah, I was like, I don't need any of this stuff.
Have we ever pissed Tiffany off, by the way, Josh, about anything? Linda.
I absolutely have.
She was very mad about Linda, us talking about her, I remember.
She was worried that Linda was somehow going to hear it. I'm like, I can't think of anything that would be less on Linda's radar than our podcast. But
Linda was his housekeeper, by the way.
I said something once about one of her family members, and she's like, you can't say that. They listen. And I was like, okay, well, all right, fair enough. So I have left that member of the family out. It was like a mundane little, you guys didn't even notice it or react to it. And I was like, okay, we'll just leave that out. That's the only time I've ever gotten in trouble for anything, and I say a lot of stupid shit on this podcast. Sorry, Trisha. So, Trish.
All right. Well, now, Eddie, it is now time for your Enjoy Vision Fresh Perspective Look Around. I've stumbled because we're changing the name a little bit. No more of the look back, look ahead. It's the Enjoy Vision Fresh Perspective Look Around. As we take a look at all the things that have happened last week and this week, the baseball team seems to be getting it together a little bit. They took, 2 out of 3 against Ryder, Eddie, and now they're playing what you term a terrible UNLV team.
They're not a good UNLV team. They had, I think through their first 13 games, they've had 27 errors? 27 or 28 errors? I think they went into yesterday with 26. It doesn't matter. They're not very good. OU should win Wednesday, finish off a 2 short midweek sweep of the Rebs. And, as I guess, quote unquote, as poor as things started for Oklahoma, they would have won, if they can win on Wednesday, that'd be 6 of 7. And you start kind of getting into a portion of the schedule where you can really rack up wins, especially on the front part of the Big 12 schedule. Got Stanford coming to town, which is going to be a big series.
Wow.
Offensively, they're starting to come together. Jackson Nicholas was on base 5 times yesterday. He was 4 for 4. He's up over, I think, 330. I think he enters today hitting 334. So, an offense that kind of got out of the gate slowly is starting to take form of, I think, what a lot of people thought they were going to be. The pitching's going to just kind of be a work in progress. But if you're scoring a bunch of runs in the World of College Baseball, you're going to be in every game, and they should be, that should be the case for them.
All right. Also, basketball gets a win over TCU in the final home game.
Carey.
They did not have their ceremony after, which was a good idea. You always have it before the game, OSU, always. And now they move on to the Big 12 tournament. We'll have Bob Persbillo joining us here in just a bit to kind of break it all down. As they are playing, this is a Wednesday we're recording. They're playing this evening. Right. It's Bedlam, and Oklahoma State's had their number all season. It looks like softball is continuing on. We've had some rain in the area last 24 hours, but it's supposed to clear up. I think it's going to rain all night tonight, but then weekend should be good. But softball is after that UCLA win, they're just kind of rolling along.
They've won 9 in a row, and all of a sudden are 17-1 on the year. I think the demise of the softball program was a little bit exaggerated. They go down Starkville this weekend.
What was a 4-3 loss to Baylor?
Yeah, it was 4-3, and they gave up a 3-run homer.
And their pitching, they hadn't had their pitching really figured out. I mean, Jordy Ball had been struggling with walks and things like that. But the Enjoy Vision Fresh Perspective Look Around is brought to you by Enjoy, which Eddie Radosevich, I've done LASIK a long time ago. I think it's a fantastic
You should go back
procedure.
in and get it again.
Just if Enjoy wants to have me, we'll talk about it. But you've actually been in recently and had it, and you're a guy that I know you've forgotten contact cleaner and stuff when we've been on the road, and you had to scramble to go get some.
It sucks. It's a terrible existence of having to track that stuff down on the road.
But you don't have to do that anymore.
I don't. I got it right before I actually went up to Omaha for the College World Series a year ago, and it's been one of the best decisions that I've made. Enjoy Vision. They use Laser Vision Center in Oklahoma City. It's one of the best. It is the best one out there. Their combination of mind-blowing technology, experienced eyeball surgeons, and exceptional patient care was life-changing, and it is life-changing for me. So, all you got to do, if you're thinking about it, if you're on the fence, just give them a shout. Right now, they're giving $400 off to any Sooner Scoop Unofficial 40 listener. Just go to enjoywithme.com. Use promo code U40. That is the letter N, J-O-Y, withme.com. Promo code U40. Enjoy Vision. This is where you LASIK. It's been truly life-changing. Don't have to worry about putting glasses on when I wake up from a slumber and have to go pee or do something like that. So it's actually kind of nice. And just the
or
simplicity.
Walk through a wall, maybe.
Literally the simplicity of laying in bed and watching television, which someday I'm going to be able to do once again at my home. It's nice. Not having to worry about, do I have my contacts in when I'm going to bed? Do I am I going to fall asleep with my glasses and then all of a sudden I wake up and I'm sleeping on top of them, which I've done before. So
is that the company's truck that I'm trying to burn down?
Well, I mean, usually you want to make sure that you put the gasoline in the Molotov cocktail and then throw it. So, you might need glasses, though, to make sure that you're putting the gasoline into the right spot, into the Molotov. So enjoy Vision. I'm sure they're going to love this one. Go hit them up. U40.
Can we get a quick progress update on the apartment?
Yeah, I mean, it's in the process. I would say we are officially 100% in the thick of it as far as the rebuild and the remodel and all that kind of stuff goes. So they've taken care of me. The fine folks over at my apartment complex have been really good about kind of taking care of me. And I have
scared of you at the same time.
Yeah, a little bit. I have no qualms with them right now. Everything is underway, and that's good to see. I did go up to my apartment the other day, and I mean, they took literally everything out of my apartment. It is a completely barren wasteland right now.
I think we should give George 6 months and then just have a flat-out apartment off. Who has the best crib?
He probably does. I don't know. Right now, I don't even have anything in mind.
Do you feel like
I got my couch yesterday?
I know.
So.
I was going to ask, do you feel like a grown-up now? You officially aren't, living in squalor?
Well, I mean, I feel like I'm still living in squalor a little bit, but I guess so. I mean, I've now lived in so many different apartments the last few years. Hopefully, I'm not.
That's the man that blocked me right there, Jeff Capel. He blocked all of us.
ACC Coach of the Year.
Me, too.
Right?
He just, he auto-blocked everyone at Sooner Scoop.
Well, I think he blocked everybody that was on the Oklahoma beat at that time.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird. It's not our fault that they sucked. To be completely honest.
I think he was mad at us because we were the first to report that he was getting fired. If we didn't do that, it wouldn't have happened or something.
Well, that's a little bit of a personal issue with him because he was going to get fired.
All right, continuing on, we're going to talk. It's our Enjoy Vision Fresh Perspective look around, and a lot of big things going on right now. We just had a junior day. We're going to get to that, but George and I yesterday spent most of our day over at the Board of Regents meeting. It was really good. I mean, we had some other stuff going on. Well, let's get into the other stuff real quick, George, because this is kind of how things are going to be working around here. It's yesterday we had all heard there was a fight over the weekend on Campus Corner and involving some football players, and it was just it was out there. And I know Eddie had been hearing from people. I'd been hearing from people. I'd hit up some sources and things like that, and some people had heard about it and others hadn't. And George just contacted the Norman Police Department and said, hey, is there an incident report on Campus Corner from early Sunday morning? And you got something with some football players' names on it and another name on there. And there were some pretty serious-looking charges on this document that you were sent. And this all happens right as we're in the middle of the Board of Regents meetings where they're getting ready to announce all the facility stuff. But this is kind of how we work. When there are things that are out there that are rumors, we want to be ahead of them just because we're going to keep getting asked about it. So, yesterday this happened. You got the incident report, and we were like, who's this third guy? Well, first off, why don't you kind of explain, George, kind of getting that report, what your thoughts were when you first saw it, and what it detailed.
Well, and I think it's important to note too, we all kind of got tipped off to it. I think it was Sunday that I sent a message, and Eddie had heard the same stuff, and it seemed like it was not a whole lot there. We just had heard that maybe a couple of players were involved, and so I just reached out. I still had the phone number to the Norman Police Department, and they have people over there that's their job to deal with the media like us. So I just reached out to him and was like, hey, do you have
public information officers?
Yeah, public information officers. And so I just reached out to them, and they didn't get back to me really till I think it was Monday night, and then they got me the incident report on Tuesday. And it's the incident report, which will become public here, I would assume sometime this week is what I've been told, that it basically, the charges on there, it doesn't say who's charged with what. So it has the three names. And obviously the two OU football players, Jaden Gibson and Colin Montgomery, were the ones on there, and those pop out. But it doesn't say what they're charged with. And so we had to get clarification on what of
Who
the
did what?
who did what, basically, yeah. And on there it had, public intoxication, and then it also had, the assault and battery with a deadly weapon, all of those charges, which is a very serious charge. And it also had the incident report on there about what happened, and the gun was being pointed at people, and there was an incident, some fighting, and all that stuff. And so I called the police department, and they just told me, Jaden Gibson and Cole Montgomery were just basically tagged with public intoxication because they were in the area. They were interviewing people, and I guess they weren't cooperating the way they wanted them to.
Seen that once on Campus Corner. You've probably seen it 1,000 times.
Yeah, I mean,
a fight, people come over, see what's going on, somebody runs their mouth, and then all of a sudden they end up in cuffs. I feel like I saw that happen or unfold almost every weekend that I was in college.
Well, yeah, and it's like public intoxication. If we had found out that it's just a public intoxication, I don't think we would have cared much, because that happens, right? Everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people get a public intoxication, especially when you're young and in college. But
it's not every weekend when somebody's waving a gun around.
Yeah, and we just wanted
nowadays, it's America.
Well, and the name that we won't say, and eventually again it'll be public, but we just didn't know who he was, and so we're trying to figure out how is he connected to these guys.
Is this a walk-on?
Right.
Why are all three of these guys on this report if they're not somehow interconnected?
Exactly, and so that was kind of why. We didn't want to, put anything out there until we kind of figured out exactly what it was. And then we wanted to make sure that we did put something out there that explained the situation, because, again, when you see the report, when it becomes public, there's no clarification on who's charged with what. And so that's why it was kind of important to, I guess, just explain what exactly happened and kind of what we heard.
And so, essentially Cole Montgomery, Jaden Gibson, public intox charges, not implicated at all in a fight or an assault or anything with the gun. And I know you were able to kind of clarify that the Norman Police Department didn't feel like those two were involved with the guy with the gun. Like they were at separate parties.
Yeah, and it felt like almost sort of, I don't want to say wrong place, wrong time, because, you just have to be smart about, where you're at. And it sounds like maybe they, were just kind of too involved at some point, but it definitely felt sort of like wrong place, wrong time for them. And obviously they're both, I believe, underage, and so that's why they ended up getting the PIs. Is they were there in the area, and the cops were like, "Oh, you're clearly intoxicated and you're underage. We're going to give you guys, PIs." But from my understanding, they had no involvement in the gun or the assault or really even what was going on with whatever fight happened.
So.
I'm sure that they're going to get to know Jerry Schmidt very well here. Yeah. A little bit more personal than maybe everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, and you can see why we were a little bit panicked, because Mikey Henderson did tell us that trouble travels in threes at OU football. So
yeah, and again, I mean the name that popped up sounded sort of familiar, but it wasn't. And then it's just like we did a lot of digging on who that was. Yeah. So. It turned it out. I mean, again, it's just a public intox, and I'm pretty sure nothing else would come of it. So
thank God they weren't hanging out with Joe Mixon over the weekend.
That's what I say.
I thought it was.
Is that the weirdest? Like, I don't think I've ever seen a story that starts like that and then just hangs in the air and it doesn't advance at all. The Joe Mixon story.
No, I mean, I think it is the current world that we live in, where people throw shit out there and they don't wait for actual facts to come out because they want to get it on Twitter as soon as possible.
But there were sheriff's deputies like putting tape around his house and investigating.
Somebody got shot. Somebody did get shot.
Yeah.
I just don't think that I mean, I don't even know if he was there. I still don't. Days later. Do we know that for a fact?
No, there's nothing. I mean, there was that Fox 19 guy that did a fantastic rendition of what the cops sounded like when they were looking for him. But nothing has advanced since then. Like after we finished working last night, the Thunder game was on. I was here watching. I went home about the third quarter, and I started checking things before I went to bed. And I was like, I wonder what has happened with the Joe Mixon thing.
Sure.
And there wasn't a single tweet, a post that hadn't already been there from when I woke up in the morning.
Well, and that's why, I mean, I don't want to give like a journalism rant here, but like that's why I think sometimes our jobs are pretty hard when it comes to the police stuff, because it's like I'm sure they got that scoop about Mixon, and they're like, we need to put this up. And clearly there's not a ton of information still out there, but you got to try and share the information. It's the same kind of process we went through of like, we got to put something out there,
right?
You know, so because it's going to become public at some point.
Well, it's going to become public at some point, and then you kind of look like an idiot if you're sitting on something that you knew happened and you didn't report it as well.
Well, that's what why we posted all that stuff on the board about the Montgomery and Gibson thing, because, like George said, that's it's really strange right now. Like with the public part of the Cleveland County Sheriff and the Norman Police Department, I'll have to ask somebody about why it's got this way, but it used to be that you just went to the Cleveland County Sheriff's desk blotter and you could see who got arrested the night before, and they don't have that anymore. So
and I kind of asked about that. I guess it's just not updated as regularly. Like this is what 4 days removed since Saturday night, and there's still nothing out there. So I'm assuming it'll be out there at some point this week, is what I was told.
But no, and so all of that played out, and this morning we kind of, George kind of put an end to it, and then we posted about it. But that was all happening at the Board of Regents meeting, which is, I really enjoyed going out there. It was like, I'm always surprised. I told this story this morning about Tom Love and, thoughts and prayers, to the Love family. I mean, yeah, they're all uber rich and all that, but I mean, Tom Love is literally one of the most genuine, nicest people I've ever met. And just knowing that he was a billionaire, that makes it even cooler. I remember going to Gabe and Caroline's wedding, and I was out in the lobby, and he started walking toward me, reached out his hand and to shake mine, and I said, "Hey, Tom, I'm Carey Riddock." He's like, "I know who you are." And I was like, "Wow, Tom Love knows who I am. That's pretty badass." That was one of the few times I'm like, I guess I am kind of known. So, I mean, it was kind of one of those things, like President Harris was out there, and it was kind of the same thing. George and I were talking to Joe Castiglione. He was like, "Joe, do you know Carey Murray?" He's like, "I know Carey Murray." I was like, "Whoa." I wasn't a student in your law school, so that's pretty cool. But, Rick Broad is a new Board of Regents member, and he's from Duncan, and I've known him all my life, so it was cool to get to talk to him. But cool just to spend some time talking to Joe as well. And on top of that, we got a lot of information about what's going on with facilities at Oklahoma right now. George?
Yeah, I think I added up as $388 million worth of stuff. And a lot of it had been approved before, and I know a lot...
It's confusing to people when they see all that stuff.
Even the new football facility was approved at the previous Board of Regents meeting, but they kind of put an official price tag on it. And the way Joe explained it makes a lot of sense. Last one, they hired an architect to basically dream up what it might look like, what it might cost. And then this one, they approved basically to hire a construction manager. So it's just another step in the process. A lot of the other ones, like softball, baseball, they've been approved in the past. The price just went up, and so they just got more money basically approved to do those. But yeah, lots of stuff going in. I think the biggest one was obviously the football stuff, because of the type of facility that they want to build. I mean, the way Joe explained it in terms of meeting rooms and dining hall and 2 new practice fields, office spaces. I mean, it's going to be a massive undertaking, and it also makes you kind of wonder, where is that thing going to go? It makes sense to maybe put it over where the track is.
They gone.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that's what's going to happen. Or the Duck Pond parking lot's going to disappear, or maybe both. I think there's a chance both happens there. What's the future of the Everest Center? Those sorts of things start entering your mind. But it's going to take several years before we kind of, obviously until it's built. And then I think it's going to be a while until we kind of figure out exactly what it's maybe going to look like.
Yeah, and I think another thing that, people that are outside and they see that list of things and they're like, well, I thought the everything was funded. I thought the Loves Field, the softball facility was funded. They're actually building it, right? They're moving dirt. And I know for people that probably haven't been, most people listening probably haven't even been in Norman since football season. But you go over there right now and it's just bulldozers and dirt. They are really getting after it. So you're seeing some concrete forms being built over there. They're just starting it. But yeah, they're moving dirt for the softball stadium.
Well, and I think the golf stuff is, I think somewhat underway. Maybe it seems like
You need to drive out by there and see.
That's all road construction there on
okay.
Constitution. I don't think that they've started on any of the co-center stuff.
Yeah, I know. I don't think they've started on gymnastics either. I'm not exactly sure, but I know that a lot of that stuff, from my understanding, it's softball. Then I think they're going to do the Lloyd Noble stuff, which we can get into that too if we want. And then I think it's some other stuff. But I think the bottom of the list is actually the football facility in terms of when things are going to get completed, because that's again, it's going to be massive. And I know also, Carey, you and I talked about that west end phase 2 of the west side of the stadium. This won't have any effect on that, I don't believe, in terms of timeline. It sounds like that's just basically been put on the back burner because they have so many other projects. So we still don't have a very clear timeline, like on when there might be a new press box or whatever else they're planning to do on that west side. But that was talked about.
Here's the game. This is your new drinking game. What'll come first? Lloyd Noble Arena being bulldozed, or the west side Gaylord Family Memorial Stadium?
Well, yeah, and I made the big mistake of asking Joe about the LNC yesterday, because he gave me basically, I think it was the longest answer he gave of the day, and he just told me everything that's happened the last year since I've not been here, and gave us no answer. Basically said they have not even decided yet if there's going to be a new arena or if they might do some renovations. It sounds like they might have some more clarity at the next Board of Regents meeting, which is in June. So there's no decision there. But I do know that the $9.5 million reservations that they're doing to the LNC, the team spaces, that has nothing to do with the future of whatever they decide to do there.
And when Bob jumps on, we'll talk about why we love Porter Moser when he was asked about that very thing. So. Outside of that, salaries were either raises happened or extensions happened for just about everybody on staff.
Yeah, I think the only one that was not extended was Ted Roof. I know a lot of people wanted to clamor about that. He did get a $50,000 raise that was already worked into his contract. But yeah, I think it was about half and half. Some guys got raises, some guys didn't. If they didn't get a raise, I think they got extended, is basically the way it worked. And I wouldn't be shocked if some of those guys that didn't get raises maybe at the next Board of Regents meeting, because that's usually when they do the contract stuff, is the summer Board of Regents stuff. But
and for position coaches, DeMarco, I believe, was the winner at a $100,000 raise.
Yeah. Jeff Lebby got one too.
Yeah, but I'm going to say coordinator versus position coach. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Brandon Hall got one.
Yes, he did. A little. I think.
I have it right in front of me, but it was
like 75,000 or something, 55,000.
Yeah. I can't remember, but yeah, it was kind of a mixed bag. And then they also approved.
They were 6 and 7, so
yeah, and they also approved Emmett Jones's new contract, which was, I think it's through 2025 and $550,000 a year, which is $100,000 more than what he was getting paid at Texas Tech a year ago.
Yeah, so I mean, you could see 3-year deal, $100,000 plus. I think he's got escalators probably in that. As well, but yeah, they paid to get him. I mean, they paid to snag him away from Tech for sure.
Yeah, I was surprised Todd Bates didn't get a pay bump. I think he was one of the ones that he did get extended through 2026, which I think he might be the only. Him and Lebby might be the only ones.
He's making over $560,000, right?
Yeah, but I just thought he'd be
or $650,000.
I thought he was like $720 or something like that.
I thought it was $650.
I should have pulled it up.
I got it right here. Todd Bates is up. Yeah, he's up $225,000 to $665,000.
Oh, well, there you go.
So that would have been an escalator in his contract then, and not something that was approved yesterday then, because they didn't announce.
Yeah, he didn't get a raise yesterday. That's the odd thing. The contracts are different than at least when I was here, and maybe it's the way that they.
I think it's basically the guys that have. Bigger titles, the escalators were built into their contract, like Ted Roof.
Yes, I think that is what it is.
Yeah, and Lebby gets $100,000, or he'll be at 2.1 next year. He's at 1.9 this year.
Where does that put him? Just on
someone put the list out the other day.
OCs.
I want to say he's like third in the country.
I was going to say he has to be top 5.
Yeah,
and you know what? The way that they're recruiting on that side of the football, I think that it's obviously it's going to have to get better on the field. But when you look at what they did with Jackson Arnold, and not even just what they did on the offensive side of the football, just as a whole with what he's done in the recruiting world, the work that he did late with Peyton Bowen, things like that, I think it's completely worth it. You want Jeff Lebby to be part of the program.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, and I noted it in the story too. And Joe talked about it. They had several coaches that, I know they were 6 and 7, but, there were several coaches that they thought, other schools were going to come after. Obviously, Alabama, sort of came after Jeff Lebby. So, you kind of have to pony up in today's world. And,
sure.
And I think that, I know everybody gets mad about the Ted Roof stuff, but he is the defense coordinator at Oklahoma, and, you got to pay him quite a bit of money. So that's just the way it works.
Off your entire order, and you won't have to worry about delivery fees. You get great restaurant quality ship. It's easy, just 10 minutes or less to cook it. You take it out of the package. Restaurant quality meal. I mean, it's really easy. PrimeShrimp.com. Go check it out. Avoid those ridiculous delivery fees that just keep piling up on me. I know. I'm going to get more prime shrimp right now. And the thing about, Lebby, Josh, is I don't think, the Jackson Arnold stuff, there was never an issue there. He was always committed. But, like, behind the scenes, we've kind of learned, like, Jeff Lebby is a dogged recruiter. Like, he is out there fighting, scratching, clawing to get every kid. It's going to be tough to win battles against Jeff Lebby, and he's not going to just let go easily if someone says, I'm going here.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, because it's not just the offensive guys. It's not Jackson Arnold. It's not Caden Green. It's not just the premier offensive guys. Like, you'll see coordinators, how they kind of recruit sometimes. That's not the way he operates. I mean, over the weekend, he was retweeting, Williams Nwaneri, his tweet about his visit weekend. That's a defensive lineman. I mean, Jeff Lebby has no real connection to him, but he is, you talk to people that are around him and around that program, that's a guy he wants. If he can help, if he can give an extra 1% to Oklahoma's chances, he's going to do it. He is just very, very active as a recruiter and is going to help with any guy he thinks he can help with. And, you hear stories where he's just like, what can I do? Where can I be in this thing? And it's not a power thing. Like, I think he knows he's a good recruiter, and he, he puts it to use.
All right. Outside of that, George, did you have any other takeaways just about anything that Joe said yesterday? I mean, he gave us I don't know, what was that, about 25, 30 minutes after it was over to talk about things?
Yeah, no, I really like Joe a lot, and I think he's a great athletic director. But when it comes to media stuff, he's very formal.
Calculated.
Yes, and so, it's 25 minutes, which is great. I appreciate the time, but, 20 some of those minutes, it's like, okay, where's the good stuff in here? And so it's kind of hard.
That happens at the back of the room when the cameras aren't on him.
Yes, exactly. But we got some good stuff. I mean, he talked a little bit about SEC scheduling. I know everybody's kind of clamoring about that after, Ross Dellinger put out that basically I think they're kind of guessing on what it's going to look like, or kind of what they're hearing, what it might look like. He just said nothing's official, which is what Joe's going to say. And I believe him. I believe it's not official yet, but it definitely seems like things are sort of trending toward what we've heard of, Texas, Missouri, and Florida. But obviously, he was not going to sit there and confirm that. So it'll be interesting to see when that might get figured out. But other than that, not really. I think that it's just kind of again, like I wrote, a signal that they're gearing up for this move to the SEC with the new facilities, and then. Giving their coaches the bumps, I think also says they still believe in this coaching staff. So sorry, Eddie's sitting here watching Syracuse, Wake Forest.
Yeah, we got money all over the place right now. Yeah. The crazy thing is like $175. Like, that is, it seems like a lot of money. Obviously, for like just a football only facility like Florida, I know that
million.
Like
okay.
175.
I was like 175. Is that
175 million? 175 million. Like, I know that what's his name, Matt Baker had quote tweeted your tweet coming out on Monday when we were talking about like just the Board of Regents meeting on the docket or whatever, in Florida.
Are you calling Oklahoma construction companies crooks? Is that what we're hearing?
No, I just wonder like how awesome this facility is going to be.
Well, yeah, and if you go watch,
because you shit ton of money. They're outspending Florida by $25 million.
Yeah, and if you go watch there's a video on YouTube of the Florida facility.
It's fantastic
and
looking.
It's amazing. And I'll just tell you too, it says $175 million. It's guaranteed to go up. It's just like all those other projects. Like the money's just going to keep. It's just going to get.
It's also
more
crazy to me that like OU football has not had 2 100-yard fields. Like that's insane to me that. And that was something that, when they were talking about having to even I've heard Teddy Lehman talk about this as far as just the little amounts of time that you have with guys during the summer. It takes time for guys to run from the Switzer Center over to the indoor facility. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like how nice is it going to be when you can just walk outside and get right back into what you guys are doing?
Well, I hope they build I was thinking about this yesterday, Eddie, because I wonder if they build that facility over there right by the track and it's just massive right there. What if they built a little sky bridge over Jenkins?
God, that'd be beautiful, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it be awesome?
They already have a couple in the Big 12.
But it wouldn't be as beautiful as one on Asp.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's always going to be a pipe dream, though, because we got to build it tall enough for medical emergency vehicles to get through Asp. That's why you can't have a sky bridge right now.
Interesting.
I've done the homework on it. I've asked about it before. Yeah.
No, but and here's the thing people have to realize, like, when you're talking about a new football facility, you're talking about taking everything that they use now in the south end zone and putting it there. The weight room, the locker room, meeting rooms, team meeting rooms, like equipment room, laundry, all that stuff. Like, that's all going to be. And they'll be adding other stuff like, you had the quote in there from Brent that was like from back in 2022. Like, was that like April?
Yeah, a year ago.
19. And he was talking about, that back then Clemson had just finished like the first ever NIL facility. I think that'll be a part of it too. Like, you put like podcasting studios in there and things like that for the players. Like, those are the things that they will be thinking about in that $175 million that will go into it. And then, the South End, he was asked yesterday about support staff and things like that. Like, the support staff has gotten so much bigger, like, you need more room for them as well.
Well, yeah, and that's what, we kind of talked about that too, is that it's the amount of people working right now in the Switzer Center is massive. I can only imagine. I bet a lot of those guys don't really have a ton of office space. So this new place would be, offices for that. And then it sounds like the Switzer Center will basically open up for other athletes to use, not just football players. And they kind of use it now, but it sounds like it's going to be even more so used for other sports. So I do wonder if Brent gets to keep that nice, big, fancy office up there. I was thinking about that.
I bet he's screwed out of that, yeah.
Yeah, because that's one thing I would not give up. That thing's awesome.
Although I would say, like, it is awesome. Like, they went way overboard on that thing. Like, nobody needs an office. I mean, that's 2 offices. I mean, like, you could... If not for that giant window, you could put a wall there, and it'd still be the 2 biggest offices in the building.
Yeah, and I know. Back when I toured the Switzer Center when it first opened, like I said, it's really nice in there and stuff. But even Joe said it's 5 years, 6 years old, however old it is. You've got to start upgrading that stuff. That's just the reality, especially if you want to be a successful football program. I mean, A&M just approved a $200 million facility, so. That's what you're competing with, and you just have to build those sorts of things. And I think also moving to the SEC, they're going to get more money. I mean, we've talked about that too.
Sure.
So,
is there one thing that like OU just doesn't have right now that they really need?
A slide like Clemson. That's
a winning record.
Yeah, a winning record.
What if they built like one of those trains like you rode as a kid, like wherever
to like take people around campus and stuff, like a trolley?
Yeah, a trolley kind of.
I mean, it'd probably
like
get more
on it.
It'd definitely get more use than the bullshit thing they have in downtown Oklahoma City.
You don't like the transit system down there?
I've literally never been on it. I mean, there's no reason to.
I've been on it.
Have you?
Yeah, I got on the one that took you all the way around downtown, though, instead of the one that took you around Bricktown.
Yeah, unless you're coming from like Midtown to go to the Paycom Center. There's really truly no reason to get on that thing. Like you can't go out by the Jones. You can't go up to like what's it called? Well, I guess you can go to Automobile Alley, but it's neither here nor there. They should have, if they really wanted to, I have an entire spiel about this. If they really wanted to do it, they should have done like the DART train from like Edmond to Oklahoma City in a long line. And you could have taken it like up to 23rd Street, and you could have taken it north of 23rd Street, up to 63rd if you wanted to. Like, it just doesn't make any sense the way they did it.
I think Eddie needs to run for mayor of Oklahoma City. That's the next step.
I have so much trust in the current Panther that is in office right now in David Holt.
You can skip it and you can just go to governor.
Well, I talked to the lieutenant governor this morning, Matt Pinnell, and we have some fun things in store.
All right, it is time to let our good friend Bob Prisbillo jump in here as the Sooners get ready to play Bedlam again tonight, third go-around.
11 in a row. That's all they need, Bob.
That's it.
Bob, is this just another mismatch? I mean, Oklahoma State's not been playing well. Kyle Boone's not been playing well. Mm-hmm. It seems like if there is ever a time for Oklahoma to beat Oklahoma State, tonight's the night.
Yeah, and the one dramatic difference with OU compared to who they were in the first two Bedlam games is the development of the freshmen, of Milos Uzan, of Ortega. Like, those guys are playing at a much higher level compared to what they were during these first two games. Now, it doesn't change anything about OSU just being incredibly big. And if Tanner Groves gets 2 fouls in the first 3-4 minutes of the game, that is going to be a disaster. There's nothing you can really do about it. But this does feel, as a lot of the games have felt throughout the course of the conference season, a very winnable opportunity. But can they deliver a back-to-back outing? They haven't won back-to-back games in 2023. That sounds ridiculous to say. But can tonight be the start of it?
It does probably help from an Oklahoma perspective that Tanner Groves is coming off of his best game, maybe in a Sooner uniform. But I'm very intrigued to see how Grant Sherfield plays tonight without Avery Anderson on the floor.
Avery did a tremendous job just locking up Grant. I mean, Grant had 15 points in the first half of the first game in Stillwater, and then Avery shut him down the next 3 halves. And that's kind of how the story went between the two teams. That first half in Stillwater, very good for OU. They're up 6 at the break. And ever since, it's just been a domination by the Cowboys. Now, what OSU's been able to do, they've been able to find the offense with Avery out. They're able to adjust in that regard, and Porter Moser has given them a lot of credit for what they've been able to do with that. But defensively, yeah, if there's a chance that Grant Sherfield can bust out of it against the Pokes, tonight would be the night. And we're going to know early. I mean, you sort of know with Grant, if he hits, one of his first couple shots, it carries over to the rest of the team. It carries over to the way that he approaches the rest of the game in terms of rebounding, in terms of ball movement. And it's just so pivotal. It sounds ridiculous to say, someone who's as old as Sherfield is and as the battles that he's been in, but if he doesn't make shots early, it affects everything else. And so if he makes a shot here or there, and if Tanner Groves doesn't have a foul within the first 10 minutes of the first half, you're going to feel pretty comfortable and pretty confident about what could happen throughout the rest of the game.
I got to tell you, got some OSU friends. They're all kind of the same mindset, which is we've dominated this team all year. Now we're going to play them in the Big 12 tournament. We're not playing well. And we're going to have to watch Oklahoma knock us out of the NCAA tournament tonight. Like, the woe is me crowd is strong right now with some of my OSU friends. I mean, it sets up that way that, you set them up to knock them down, and OSU fans feel like they've been in this position so many times before.
Yeah, just the way they've played the last 3-4 weeks, not very encouraging. They went from, being solidly in the tournament to being on the bubble to being the last, 4 in, and now they're on the outside looking in before any of the craziness starts to happen, before you start having bid stealers take away a team that might have been able to make it. And I think they know deep down that even a win in Bedlam doesn't do it. They'll have to beat Texas on Thursday night to really be able to say that they can punch their ticket. And the way that they've played lately just doesn't suggest they're going to be able to flip their switch either, which could make for an interesting game. It could make for a very sloppy, disgusting, ugly game too, with two teams that have been so inconsistent throughout the course of the year. But it is a game, as Port Moser would say, just got to win that first one. Can't do anything about Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Can't worry about minute restrictions, fatigue. None of that matters Thursday, Friday, Saturday, clearly, if you don't win the first one. And so win one game in a row, 4 days in a row, and you can punch your ticket.
All right, the weather is starting to change. It's getting a little bit warmer. And it is time for you to think about your sock collection, because with that weather change, you're changing socks as well. What's your sock collection look like? Is it ratty, or is you got white socks that are turning gray? You got elastic that no longer is holding anything up. Go to deadsoxy.com, DEADSOXY. Lots of great colors. The team colorways, obviously, they've got an entire crimson selection. The Maker Bayfields are back. And right now, if you go to that checkout, even on sale items, enter that code SCOOP, you'll get 25% off your entire order. And hey, try out the no-show socks. They're a no-brainer. The boardroom dress socks, great if you need to dress up. I went to a Board Regents meeting the other day, and I looked better than everybody else because I had my boardroom socks on to go with my nice pants and shoes. So don't be a slouch. Get out there. Get you some high-quality socks. New releases in the no-shows. The silver britches, those are pretty cool. Even though nobody will see them, you'll know you got on great socks. DeadSoxy.com. That's DEADSOXY. Use that promo code SCOOP. Get 25% off your entire order. And as always, stay soxy.
I think during the dark period of what was OU basketball here about a month ago,
yes,
when I was ready to fire everybody and maybe even arson the Lloyd Noble Center, probably a little overreactionary in hindsight. But I do think that once we've been able to they've been able to get out of this rut, and you start looking back at the growth and the development specifically of the two freshmen, there's a lot of positives there with Otega Owe and Los Uzon. From a future standpoint, I know that obviously they're going to need to go out and get some answers in the portal. You have to like what they have in the backcourt, especially if you're looking at 2-3 years down the road. And obviously they got to win now, and they got to win next year, or there might not be a future for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, and you look at Caden Cooper coming in, might be one of their best recruits they've had in a long, long time. But it's another, guard or, wing, forward. It's not anyone in the post. It's got to be the portal. And, I guess it helps that, that's what you have to hit, but that's going to be a hard spot. Just like I always said in football, you can find a receiver anywhere in the portal eventually. You can find, a point guard or especially a shooting guard anywhere in the portal. There's going to be so many of them. But to find a defensive tackle or to find a center for basketball, that's not as easy. That's going to be a challenge, and it just can't be a guy that is just part of your depth. That will not work. I know it's a crazy story, but about Tanner Groves scaring off a couple of people in the portal last spring. You don't have that. You have everything available to any power forward or center who wants to leave a mark, that wants to come in immediately, be surrounded by a solid nucleus in the backcourt, and they need to be the missing piece with the front court. So there's the options are, the availability should be there, but can they reel that sucker in? They were so close a couple times last year with a couple guys, and actually it didn't even matter. That's what's kind of like Rondell Walker at TCU, Kerwin Walton at Texas Tech. Those guys didn't end up having monster seasons, but that's still, when you feel confident, you've got to bring them in, and that's what Porter Moser and the rest of the staff will have to do with power forward, center, and then again, it's just going to be who's that surprising portal entry. After feeling confident for the last month that Jalen Hill was coming back, start to hear things Sunday leaning toward the other direction, and then you start getting the Porter Moser bragathon. He did that last year, if you remember, Eddie. He started bragging about Mo Gibson time and time again, doing all he could. It's like, I need you to stay. That's what he did when I asked about Jalen Hill being snubbed at the all defensive team Monday. That was like a long answer of just how much Jalen Hill epitomizes a program guy. He's everything Porter wants the program to be and how great he is at defense, but he's even a better teammate. It's like he's doing all he can in a public setting. Say, I need you to come back for one more season.
I do think that he truly loves Jalen Hill, and just the way that he gave the answer to what you asked him about not being on the first team all defensive team. It's like, I think from a guy that, I'm starting to get an idea of what he wants his vision for the program to be. He wants those grinder type guys that are going to buy completely into the program and basically bust their ass on both ends of the floor. And I don't think there's a better example of that than somebody like a Jalen Hill.
Because that would just be a hard piece to try to find.
Sure.
Because you already know, it's like, okay, I got to get a power forward. I got to get a center. But all of a sudden, if you lose something like that, probably equivalent to like a Mo Gibson or E.J. Harkless from last year, it's like, oh, shoot. Now I really got to find something somewhere, some experience, some production that I didn't think I was going to have to circle back and try to get. And that's kind of where we stand. I think, clearly Tanner's out the door. I think C.J. Nolan, Grant, I think he hits the portal. I think Sherfield goes pro. I just think he's been around college way too long, and he's just looking for the next chapter and just kind of see where it goes from there. And then there's just those question marks. The Joe Bamisil, the Jacob Groves, is he going to stay now that Tanner's gone? So Bijan, we know what he had just gone through the last couple of weeks. I sat here last Wednesday and said it didn't look like Bijan was going to play rest of the season based on Porter's answer. Bijan played that very night against Kansas State, and he played again Saturday, and he'll play again throughout the Big 12 tournament. So is that a way of keeping him in the fold because OU stood by him through his time of need? Because Porter always stresses, I want to grow old. This program's got to grow old together. And, if you only have to hit 2 or 3 in the portal compared to 6 or 7, clearly that's a massive difference.
I love Porter for his honesty. He just says, things that probably ADs don't want him to say at times. He did that back, in the Caravan era with the facilities, talking openly about how they need a new arena. I feel like, George and I were sitting around the office on Monday, and I realized that you were about to go to or just starting a press conference, and we were going through the agenda of the Board of Regents meeting, and we're like, oh, crap, there's a big basketball thing in here. Make sure you ask Porter about this. And you're like, okay. And I feel like I just set you in front of a firing line because Porter really didn't seem to want to have anything to do with a little bit of a lipstick on a pig upgrade to the Lloyd Noble Center.
Absolutely not. And I think he appreciated that I said, hey, I know you're worried about Kansas City, but this is coming up. This is going to be approved. What's sort of your take on it? And, yeah, he's like, I want all money, all funding from this point forward needs to be toward a new venue, $9.5 million renovation to the locker room and stuff. No, that doesn't mean anything. That's not going to help. And to me, that just says the process of finding the new venue is going to take a while. It won't be an overnight deal. It's not going to happen, when this next recruiting class is like a senior. It still isn't going to happen. And so you're just trying to not get too far behind because they already are. And so now it's like, we can't keep up with the Joneses like we are with football. That's never going to be a realistic thing that we can try to do. But let's not get so far behind to where we're not even competitive when we're looking at portal guys, when we're looking at, top 50 recruits in high school. And it's kind of like that's how I phrased it too. And I've been asked, putting the lipstick on a pig just to try to get through. And then if you start hearing about a location or a date on a new venue, then, obviously Porter will perk back up. But yeah, he is not in favor of just, throwing money just for the sake of for appearances compared to actually making it worthwhile and going toward a new venue, especially after going to the Moody Center in Austin, Texas. After seeing that type of environment and seeing what that can mean, there's no doubt in my mind that his conviction about needing this venue has just gone up just another notch.
I think the Moody Center would be pretty much built like the proposed
yes,
the proposed I-35 thing. It's like the city is in it with the university, right? They share it.
Correct. And I think what a lot of people point toward with the Moody Center, they're going to use that venue for a lot of other things. They're going to get concerts galore, and it makes a lot of sense. Would something like that in Norman attract more than just the basketball
100%.
stuff, right?
100%.
Well, I mean, to me, like everybody knows I'm a big music guy. I like to go to concerts and stuff. Like every big city, they have, they have the arena. They have the BOK. They have the Paycom, but they also have like an outdoor amphitheater or something like that, a lesser venue where during the summer people come in, or they just play. If it's like a band I like Third Eye Blind, like they don't play all Paycom all the time. Like even Kings of Leon does an amphitheater tour in the summers. So like I think it would take that.
The Killers are playing at the casino down in Durant in a month.
That's a great venue down there.
I've seen them. They're good.
I've been to Choctaw to a concert. It's a great venue for music. But like, you have the Zoo Amphitheater, but that's kind of like, you think of the Zoo, you think of, Godsmack's coming to Oklahoma City again. It's like they don't have that new, fresh kind of place. And I think Norman could they could be that.
My mom saw the Police and Bon Jovi at Lloyd Noble when she was in college.
My first ever concert was Loverboy at Lloyd Noble with the Hooters opening up. First time I ever smelled pot in my entire life. I think I was probably a sophomore in high school, maybe. But even Lloyd Noble seemed old and dated then.
I've seen Loverboy too. They opened for Toto and Journey in Denver. I went and saw them.
Oh, I'm so old. Loverboy was the headliner.
I saw Michael W. Smith at an FCA concert at the Lloyd Noble Center one time.
There you go.
I can one up you there. I've seen Stryper at Lloyd Noble.
What is that? I've never heard of that.
Go look up To Hell
Stryper?
with the Devil. Yeah, it's Stryper.
I'll take your word
Carey and
for
I
it.
need like the last big concert there. I know they had some country ones maybe in the last 5 years.
They had Flo Rida there when I was in school. Like it was like
that was a
it was like a university.
it was a university thing.
Yeah. I was gonna say me and Carey need to go to Rocklahoma together.
I saw that lineup. I'm a little worried about the clientele there.
Yeah, me too.
I think Godsmack is
college,
the headliner for Rocklahoma this year.
The only one I remember seeing at Lloyd Noble in college was Kid Rock, Buck Cherry, and Fuel. Was there.
My God! What a
That's
combination!
There you go. There's a trio.
And we missed almost all of Buck Cherry because I think we were drinking in the parking lot, if I remember correctly. But yeah, so that was that was a hell of a show. And you talk about a solid clientele. That was 90s wannabe metalheads right there.
It's funny.
All right, Bob. Quickly, you want to update us on what's going on with softball right now? I mean, winning streak, #1. Seems like they're getting the pitching figured out.
Yeah, I mean, there's balance just across the board, and that's what Patty was hoping for when she put this staff together. Alistair Storako one night, Nicole May the next, Jordy Ball another one. I mean, it is really working. It's 89-5 since that loss to Baylor. Not sure what this tournament coming up at Mississippi State's really going to do for them. Just about keeping focus, just doing what you got to do. There really shouldn't be any danger in the 3-day event that's about to happen. But as we usually record Wednesday, next Tuesday night, Florida State comes to Norman, and that'll be the next big test to see where this team stands. As it is right now, I believe the Seminoles are number 6 in the country. So that'll be a very nice little midweek spring break thing for people to try to get to. But it's just been the response that Patty wanted to see is exactly what has occurred in the last 2 weeks, just based on And the hitting is coming together. The pitching is still there. You can't get too high or too ahead of yourself, but they are looking they're on pace. The trajectory is going exactly to where they want it to be, to where they're peaking at exactly the right time here in the next couple months.
It is sort of cool that the Samantha Ricketts is the head coach for Mississippi State. I mean, I guess if you want to go all the way back to kind of the beginning of,
right?
I don't know, like the dominant era of Oklahoma softball, I would imagine that Samantha Ricketts has to be a part of it.
You definitely would believe so, and I'm sure that's going to get asked when we talk with Patty again this evening, because really, when you look at it, Mississippi State's a fringe, like, receiving votes type of team in the top 25. So there's not a lot of competition you wouldn't expect. So you're going to be looking for a storyline like that, and it might give a chance to sort of see what some of the younger girls can do. I know, Patty sort of kind of said it's like open tryouts at a couple positions throughout this first month of the season. Who's going to claim it? Who's going to earn it? And I think that'll probably be one of my questions going into this weekend. Is how comfortable is she starting to feel with her lineup, with where they're playing out in the field? I mean, they're playing incredible defense, and their pitching is just off the charts through the first month of the season. But now it's about, we're almost getting to conference play. Are you at a point where you know this is the lineup I want to roll out when Texas comes to Oklahoma City here in a couple weeks?
All right, Bob, appreciate you joining us and give us an update on everything, and we'll be here probably to wrap up this year. Let me ask you real quick, NIT chances if OU loses tonight?
No. I do think if they win, maybe, and obviously if they beat Texas, they'll definitely be in it, I would believe. But they did get rid of that 500 rule. I was wrong about that last week. That rule doesn't exist. You don't have to be 500 or better to qualify. It's just never happened. They've never gone to a team that's below 500. And then you say, well, we've never had a Big 12 like we've had this season, where a team might deserve that honor even if they are. But, yeah, you got to beat the Pokes. You got to beat Longhorns. And then I think they would definitely be playing going into next week.
All right, Bob, appreciate it. We'll catch you back up again next week on the Unofficial 40. So thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it, guys.
By the way, some exciting stuff. Exciting for us coming up next week. Eddie has been working with me to come up with a softball shirt. And it's interesting. I actually told some people, everybody I've told at OU has thought it's a great idea. I won't tell you exactly what it is, but it's also an idea that probably the Patty Gasso would not like her girls representing. It's a little George is looking at me like, shit, what are we getting ready to do?
Yeah, nothing crazy.
Yeah,
nothing crazy. Yeah.
But it's a little braggadocious.
Not taking
I would
like a
say.
stand against abortion or anything with a T-shirt. We're not celebrating the New York Times here.
No,
it wasn't the New York Times that came in and tried to like ask about abortion at the World Series.
Yes.
No, it's a fun shirt that I think a lot of people will really. I
think
embrace.
fans will love it.
I think
Fans
people
will
are going to
love it.
embrace it.
And I think it's going to be like I think it'll be big. The Lindsay Street thing was really big. I think this thing could be even bigger. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the money from the shirts and we're going to use that for NIL with the softball team. And we're going to go out and sign deals with them each individually. So you're actually, because they can't really, it's like we talked about this on the pod before. It's like, since they're not promoting the shirt, it's not their image or likeness, there's not really an NIL deal to be made. But what we can do is make a really cool shirt that everybody gets behind. And they're like, they'd buy it even if it's not for NIL purposes, just because they love softball and they love the softball team. But it's a slogan that I think you've seen out there a little bit from Eddie on his Twitter account. We've made it into a T-shirt, and then we're going to sell them. So those will be here next week. We'll get pre-orders going. We'll get some of the shirts in, and we'll see how it goes. But we're hoping to raise. Look, this is something that we want to keep trying out things for NIL, and this is something that I think that could be really big. And could put some money in everybody's pocket on the team. Everybody that wants to sign up for it. So looking forward to getting that going. We'll be doing it on SoonerScoopStore.com. So want you to go check that out. All right, a big recruiting weekend, Josh. Your time to shine. Junior Day, a lot of good things came out, a lot of write-ups from you. You had some stuff in Woke today, more to come. But where do you want to start first with this Junior Day that you just had?
Well, I think you have to start with the guy that I think a lot of people expected maybe a decision from by this point in the week, and that's Michael Hawkins, the quarterback from Frisco Emerson there in Dallas. A guy that, from everything I've gathered, visit went well. He was there at the end of January as well. Now, what was interesting is Oklahoma offered his brother, Malik Hawkins. Both, of course, are the sons of former Oklahoma corner Michael Hawkins from the 2002 class. So what I was told, and I actually spoke to Michael Hawkins Sr., and he told me they weren't expecting that offer to happen. They didn't think it was going to. They'd been sending, Jay Valai and the Oklahoma staff, different workout videos and some of the things that Oklahoma had voiced they wanted to see from Malik. I think that is a pretty good indicator of what's happening in the direction this is moving in, kind of like Eli Bowen, Oklahoma making Eli a real focus kind of last summer. And I think you're going to see similar things with Malik Hawkins. I feel like Michael Hawkins is a any day now kind of announcement. It could go at any point. I still feel good about that eventual choice being Oklahoma. But like anything, when you feel like, okay, now it's time, the longer it drags on, you do start to wonder, like, is this going to get put off? And does that change the dynamics a little bit? I don't think that's the case. I would guess by this time next week we know where Michael Hawkins is headed, but we'll see. I mean, like I said, it leaves a little doubt that hasn't already happened, because it kind of felt like it was going to.
He's almost – I think I've almost kind of come around to this idea, Josh, that like – and this by no means am I taking a shot at the kid. I think that some people might take it this way, but he's like perfect off year, if you will, behind Jackson Arnold. Like, still an extremely talented quarterback. But I think, like, if we're all being honest about what we feel like the future of the program is, you wouldn't – I don't know. I in a way, I almost wouldn't necessarily expect him to take a whole lot of snaps or meaningful snaps at Oklahoma. Is that unfair?
Sam Bradford's punching you in the face right now.
Why?
Because everybody said the same thing about Sam Bradford when he came in.
I wasn't. I said he was going to win Heisman Trophy.
Hey, one guy on this pod at least predicted a multi-year starter for him, so I can take great solace in that moment of pride. But what I will say about Michael Hawkins is I don't think you're wrong, Eddie. I think there is something to be said of he's the kind of guy you want to take in that every other year model, like in what we see, because Michael Hawkins has a ton of upside. Like, he's one of those, we were talking last week about the draft, about guys, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, these guys that just have a lot of physical ability, but maybe haven't refined the tools yet. That's what I would say for Michael Hawkins. And this is a kid that he spent time around, coaching. I was talking to his father about how he got into quarterback play, and it was him hanging out with like Jason Garrett and Tony Romo and, all these Cowboys players while Michael was playing for the Cowboys. And they were, kind of telling Dad, hey, man, he's got an arm. You should put him out there. And it just kind of became like he just kind of fell into being a quarterback because he was talented. And when you watch him, I see parts of his game where you can tell he's really working. Like, his footwork in the pocket, very good. But I think more than anything, it's finding a way to be repetitive in his mechanics. Sometimes when he throws, you'll see him drop his elbow. Like, they're just little things where you can tell, like, he just needs to throw more. He just needs to get a consistent motion where every single time the ball's coming out the same spot and he's throwing it the same way over and over again. I think if you can get that, then you have, you might have something. You might have a guy that really does go beyond what you're talking about, Eddie. But at the same time, he's a good enough athlete that you can do some stuff with him. Kind of like what we saw a couple of years ago with the kid from the quarterback at Dallas that played in the the Big 12 game that's now at TCU. I'm just blanking
Morris?
out on his
Chandler
name.
Morris?
Chandler Morris?
What's that? Yes, Chandler Morris. I just went totally blank. Where you could do some stuff like that, where you can put him out there and he can make some incredible plays with his feet. And he's more than that. I don't want to make him sound like he's just an athlete playing quarterback. I think there's potential there, but you're right. And honestly, he's probably better than 98% of schools would have any reason to hope for in a year like that. Usually it's like a 3-star that, is a guy that's a program guy or whatever you want to call it. This is a really talented guy that I think in the right setting could become a high-end quarterback, but he needs a lot of work before he gets there.
I think it's hard to kind of fight the perception of that game being on ESPN, him going against Jackson Arnold, Allen not being all that good. Like, if you're thinking about, how good is he? If you saw him on ESPN, you're like, I don't like that kid that much. He doesn't seem like, just kind of reminds you just physically, stature-wise of like a Malachi Nelson, where it's just like the football looks bigger than him at times. He just got to mature and age a little bit.
He's an incredibly lean guy. I mean, he's a big, long guy. And I mean, and Carey, you probably remember Mike Sr. when Mike was skin and bones.
Yes.
I would expect.
He was homeless, so.
Yeah, and again, for those that don't remember, his father just came from an unbelievably hard background, and for him to go where he has and do all the things he's done, and really has set up his sons for this amazing possible future for themselves. It's pretty wild that he's gotten to where he has. I
don't think the homeless guy that lives outside of our office is going to make it. Not at OU.
And
I think he'll continue to live.
Story, talking about Lebby earlier, I was talking to his dad, and he was saying Lebby was actually his neighbor. Their freshman year at OU, they were next door neighbors in the dorms, and Lebby, while he was at Ole Miss, kind of heard about Michael Jr. and it didn't put it together initially. Huh. He just heard it was Michael Hawkins from Dallas, and he didn't put it together that was the Mike he knew, that was his kid. And Mike didn't really realize how far Lebby had gotten. Like, they'd just kind of gone in different directions. But, he was talking about just knowing Coach Lebby and, back then knew he was going to be a coach because he was just such a mature guy and kind of got it. And, so it was just interesting kind of having that conversation as comparing, where they were, 20 years ago and now where they are now. So, but yeah, again, I like where OU is with Hawkins, and there's a lot of guys to go over, so we'll get into some of that. But I will say, just in short, I thought it was a hugely successful weekend where Oklahoma really did put their best foot forward with several guys.
Well, and let me just ask you, we know that this staff is always impressive. They make a great impression on kids. Do you get a sense that, it's kind of like with the spring game, like, last year, Brent was able to sell everybody 75,000 plus, picks up a top 5 class. Now that he's 6 and 7, is it a harder sell for these kids, or is it just still relationships, personality, or winning out right now?
I think it is. It's relationships and personality. And in a normal setting, I would say that you're dead right. And I'm surprised that I'm saying this, that I don't think it's hurting OU in the way that I thought it might, because that's what Brent talks about all the time, is if this is a relationship-driven recruitment, we don't have to worry about some of the things that a bottom line kind of recruitment has to deal with. Guys, let's be honest, under the previous regime, if Lincoln Riley had fired out a 6 and 7, that would have been dramatically a problem, because that's not the way he recruited. And I'm not saying that's right or that's wrong. I'm just saying, when you focus on Mom and Dad know me and know me well, they know my story, they know my history, it changes that dynamic a little bit. One of the kids, we've got a story on him, Joseph Jonah Ajanye, big kid from Conroe in the North Houston area, was talking about the things that surprised him. And I've got some of this that's actually going to go in the scoop on Friday, but he was talking about not knowing about Brent's religious beliefs, and how he clearly, and it doesn't surprise any of us, but he clearly puts it in front of these guys on these visits. They know about it. They're aware of it. It's not something that he kind of, like, oh, if it feels like it's the right thing to say to that recruit, like maybe at times Gabe Dindy was that way with OU. And I don't mean to say the whole staff felt that way, but there were times I think they played up the FCA thing, and then other times that wasn't the best pitch, so they went in a different direction. Brent just is who he is. He's going to recruit the way he recruits, and that's going to make them lose some guys. It's going to make them, put them in a position to get some guys that you wouldn't think normally were possible. So I think they're going to be fine. But there's no question. There comes a point when you can't just keep selling relationships, and you got to have some results. And I think this year they need to start showing the movement in that direction. But it does seem like recruits are willing to forgive what happened in year one.
Yeah, well, and I think there's just so much buy-in with track record and what these guys have been able to do. That was something that a bunch of the transfer guys talked about, and the first time that we talked to him here a couple weeks ago. Brent Venables has coached too much football. He's won too many football games and had too many successful defenses. And maybe even you could throw in Todd Bates and everybody on the defensive side of the football as well. That it's just like the track record there. They haven't forgotten how to coach. And, maybe it's an excuse from the Oklahoma side of things, but it often was probably reactionary just as far as the way that we viewed some of the, missteps from a year ago, right? Like, it seems like when they're selling what they have been on the defensive side of the ball specifically, it's obvious, yeah, we know we have to get better, but look what we've done in the past. We're going to get there. We have a vision for what we want to do. And, I think that's why it's almost in a way, too. It's like with a guy like the Williams Inwaneri kid. In no circumstances would I think that he was going to be a guy that Oklahoma could end up with. But with this staff, I almost give them somewhat of a chance. Like, it's almost like it'd be a surprise if they weren't able to go out and improve the defense and then continue to recruit at a very high level defensively.
You said that name like it was almost like somebody dared you to eat like one of those Reaper chili.
I was scared.
Packing chips. Is that what those are called?
I've literally been looking at it for the last 20 minutes before I got it.
I don't think he nailed it. No.
Oh, I thought he did.
Inwaneri?
Well, Josh was YouTubing it earlier.
Inwaneri, I think.
Inwaneri. That's what I said.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah. We're good. Josh,
give him 10 minutes and ask him to say it again.
Let's see. Yeah, that is. Yeah, we need to revisit that because I'm with Carey. There was definitely fear in Eddie's heart.
There was. I'm not saying that there wasn't fear.
Have any of you done one of those ghost pepper challenge things?
No.
I'll do it though.
Save it for the YouTube channel.
I think that sounds like summer YouTube content right there. That's perfect.
No, go ahead, George. If you had a question, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh no, I just Josh. I know we've heard a lot about obviously Hawkins, and like you said, it feels imminent that that's going to happen. Was there anybody else from this weekend that you feel like is maybe close to, pulling that trigger? I guess, for lack of a better term.
The guy that sticks out is a local kid, and that's Xavier Robinson at Carl Albert. Talking to him. When a kid just comes out and says, and you don't even have to ask him directly, like, I thought about committing, or like, I was thinking about it. And you're like, whoa, okay. Like, it takes, you guys know how that is when you'll be in an interview and like, you think it's going to go one direction and it goes so perfectly to where you and your professional aspirations want it to go. But it was, you're like, holy cow. Okay. So, you kind of took that and just, we started talking about it, and there's no question. I think Iowa State being his first offer, very meaningful to him. They've built a lot of trust with him. That's a word he uses with Iowa State a lot when he talks about them, is just trust and his belief in what they're telling him. But at the same time, he grew up an Oklahoma fan, and he's sitting there talking to DeMarco Murray, and they're telling him, what a great fit he would be, and he is a – you talk to the folks at Carl Albert, like he is the kind of – he's a locker room guy. You want him on your team. He's exactly the kind of guy Brent Venables loves. Hard worker, good football player, tough kid, but going to do everything his coaches ask, not going to complain. He's just that kind of guy. And so you can just see that relationship, just like they're perfect for each other. Like I put in a forecast after he and I got done talking because – there are certain guys, and Eddie, you've done it a lot talking, to various recruits. I know Carey, when you did a lot of recruiting, there are guys you talk to and you're like, this feels like an OU guy. That feels like an OU guy. That feels like who I'm talking to is a guy that is, part of that program, buys into what their beliefs are. So I think he's one I would keep a really close eye on. I mentioned the Joseph Jonah Ajanye kid from Oak Ridge and Conroe. I can't overstate how much he enjoyed his visit. He loved it. It went as well as it could have. He's already talking about when he's going to go back. The only real hurdle for him is his mother wants him to stay close to home, and he's been to A&M multiple times. And for those that don't know, Conroe and College Station, that's like an hour. You can do that real easy. That's a quick little trip. So I don't know how easily that can be overcome, but I do think that Oklahoma's in a good spot there. And I guess just finally, because I'm afraid if I don't mention him, people are going to be like, "What the hell?" The Williams Nwaneri kid. Big defensive end. Some people have him as a top 5 player in the country. I think that's where he belongs. I think Rivals has him at 20 right now. Some of the composites have him more like 5 or 6 and that kind of stuff. He is an elite talent. And from people I've talked to, I have not had a chance to talk with Williams yet. I won't pretend I have. Still trying to work that out for an interview with him later in the week. But he is a guy that, talking to one source, they just basically said if he picked today, it would be Oklahoma. And if you talk about that and you could make your bookends of the future, Nwaneri and Adibare, not only is that going to be a real problem for Toby Rowland and the Booth guys, but that's a pair of defensive end OU's not had in my time covering Oklahoma football in 20-something years. Like, those are legitimate if everything goes the way it can go, you're talking about first-round draft picks, maybe top 10 type draft picks. They're that gifted.
Trying to think, what is the best? Is it Dan Cody and
Jonathan Jackson?
Mm-hmm. Maybe who was opposite Austin English? Was Jeremy Beal opposite Austin English?
Yeah, that would have been Beal, and you would have had McCoy in the middle. So that was a pretty.
Well, Jimmy Wilkerson too was early with Dan Cody.
You're right. Jimmy would have been. Let's see.
Remember in that national championship game?
Right.
Remember that national championship? They played Dan Cody and Jimmy Wilkerson as defensive ends when they hadn't played there the entire year.
Yeah, because Jimmy was still a linebacker at that point. Yeah. That would be on the shore. And that is, you're right. That's an area where Oklahoma hasn't had, even when their defenses were playing really well, they weren't the prototypical guys like these two are.
No, they had. What fans are used to right now is you have Eric Stryker and then you have Obo Okoronkwo. By the way, if you can do Ogbonnia Okoronkwo, you can get Nwaneri. No problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, like I said, if you just type in his last name and pronunciation, there's a video on YouTube, and
Nwaneri.
Yeah, it's like Nwaneri, and it makes you do this tongue movement that you can't. I can't pull off. I'm not going to pretend I can. So, congratulations to the talented individuals who can, but I can't do it. But you can get close enough to be a reasonable facsimile, and he's not going to yell at you for screwing up his name on purpose.
Yeah, 6'5", 255. Wow.
And Eddie and I have seen him in person. Eddie, I feel like 6'5" is modest for him. He is a huge human being.
No, he is, and he was down at the OU camp, right? The elite camp.
Yeah, that same day with Nigel Smith. That day it was him. Yeah, they were. Like I said, I thought he was. I would have guessed at that point he was 6'6" or bigger. He is a big dude.
Sure. And well put together too. He's one of those guys that you can tell, even now. And this was a year ago, right? Well, not even. It was less than a year. But get him in a strength and conditioning program. It's going to be incredible, the transformation that his body will take even then compared to what it is now.
Oh, and that's the thing with his length.
That's why I'm so excited to see what PJ looks like in about 3-4 months.
Yeah. Because, PJ's never done anything like that. Williams plays for a good program. I mean, Lee Summit North, obviously, Caden Green, same program.
Sure.
They went to the state finals last year. That's a very good program. They have a little more built-in support and, weight program and all that kind of stuff's a little more developed than where PJ's been. But, I mean, you just look at the combine, look at PJ's brother, like, genetically it's there. Like, he's going to go places that you can't believe. But Williams, I mean, he's listed at 255 on Rivals. It wouldn't shock me at all if he's a 285-pound defensive end, playing for OU in a couple years, or wherever he ends up. But again, to drive the point home, I like where Oklahoma is a lot. I know several outlets have not all gone so far as a prediction, but there's absolutely a kind of consensus feeling around the recruiting media that Oklahoma is the leader there right now.
Was there anything else you wanted to get out about Junior Day, or do we need to talk about what's coming up on Sunday?
Trying to think if there's anybody else I have to hit. Now, I will say, just as a quick note, I mean, we're going to have more updates. I'm still tracking guys down, so I don't want people to think what's out there is all we've got. One of the big ones was Edric Houston. I mean, Edric Houston's a top 10 player in the country from Georgia that Oklahoma got to come in on an unofficial visit. Like, that stuff, nobody's done that at OU in years. Like, that's not a thing. So it says a lot. I know people have had, I think, George was talking earlier, like, I'm surprised Todd Bates didn't get more. There are OU fans that are upset with Todd Bates, that think that he's not doing well. I'm like, give it time. He didn't land David Hicks. That doesn't mean it was unsuccessful. Like, most guys, their first class doesn't have a 5-star in it. His nearly did. And frankly,
can we be honest about something?
Yeah.
I think the people that get upset about stuff like that are usually people that couldn't care less about recruiting. Like, just the process that it is.
Or they don't understand
Yes.
it. They don't understand.
They just want to be able to go to work and say, yeah, you got a 5-star.
Yeah.
They don't know anything about the nuances and that sort of, like, because, guys, there's nobody in this conversation, there's nobody listening to us that thinks OU got beat for David Hicks straight up. Now, what A&M did, it's part of the game. Like, it is what it is, but let's not pretend that David Hicks chose A&M because he liked the coaches and the program better. That's not what happened. So, and that's fine. Like, whatever. That, water under the bridge. But I will say, Edric Houston, haven't heard a lot. I don't think, like, OU's jumped to the front of his list or anything. There's a long way to go. You're talking about a top 10 player in the country in the state of Georgia. We're not going to know a verdict on him probably until signing day. But Oklahoma getting him on campus, and I have heard that there is some belief he'll return for an official in the summer. You do those things, okay, now you're talking. Now you got a chance. Maybe you can do something crazy. And Edric Houston never has to play a game in the Big 12. Like, OU, to his eyes, is an SEC school just like Alabama is. It makes no difference. So we'll see. And I know a lot of people might say, oh, he's from Georgia, he's going to go to UGA. Look at the track record. Georgia does not lock down the state like people might expect. Even coming off 2 national titles, they recruit nationally very well, and they recruit Georgia just fine too. But it's not like LSU where you don't go into Louisiana and beat LSU very often. Lots of people come in. I think Alabama took the top – I know the top 2, and I think maybe the top 2 or 3 of the top 5 in the state of Georgia last year. So it can be done, but it's going to – obviously, there's some heavy lifting in front of OU.
Josh, just quickly while we're talking about the defensive line, I know he wasn't here this weekend, but are you ready to put to bed the David Stone to Michigan State stuff with what's his name, Brandon Jordan leaving for the Seahawks? I saw that this weekend.
I'm just excited that there's a possibility of a more plausible contender to OU. Like, Michigan State, I'm sorry. Like, I don't believe it. And I know he's been up there a bunch, and that's cool, and maybe he'll shock me. And, David's a kid I've known since he was a freshman. Like, and I would never say this to him because it's not my place. Like, anybody that follows me knows. Like, I just want to cover these guys. But I don't believe a kid from Oklahoma City is going to genuinely pick Michigan State over Oklahoma. I don't believe it, especially with Todd Bates and all the track record that OU has on the defensive line. And now you throw in the two guys he really knew at Michigan State, Marco Coleman and Brandon Jordan, are both no longer on the staff. Like, I don't know. Like, I know it sounds like his A&M visit went really well. I haven't had a chance to talk to David yet. That's a priority for the week as well. I'm trying to track him down. So I've never believed in the Michigan State thing. I just never really have. And I know there's people out there that have made predictions, and I know Chad Simmons is a guy I respect the hell out of, and he's been part of that. And, we'll see. Maybe I'll be wrong, and I'll own it if I am. But it's not dead set that it's Oklahoma. I just think it's going to be another school that will catch his eye outside of Oklahoma. That either is a great program like Oklahoma or has a unique connection to him like Wisconsin because of all his family's connection and, his uncle's playing basketball there. Like, he has a special feeling about Wisconsin that he's talked to me about since he was a 14-year-old at Dell City. This is not that. And I don't know. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be Michigan State, but again, I'll gladly own it if I'm wrong.
Is this just because you feel bad about all your Michigan State love? Like back in the 2000s? I
mean, who is more acquainted and more aware of Michigan State to say that they are not of that level? Like, Michigan State doesn't recruit at that level. Unless it's a Michigan kid or we're talking about basketball. We're talking about basketball and be like, best of luck, OU fans. You're not getting that kid. He's going to Michigan State. It's just it's the opposite end of the spectrum. Michigan State's a respectable football program. Oklahoma's a respectable basketball program. But compared to the other one in that sport, it's a non-starter. It's not a competition. And when you throw in that David is a Oklahoma City kid that has a lot of affection for Oklahoma, goes to the campus all the time.
Sister goes there.
And loves Todd Bates. Like, under the previous staff, I think David had some concerns. And I don't think that's I don't think it's a reflection of, like, he loved Calvin Thibodeau, he liked Grinch, he liked the whole crew, but they didn't have the track record to say, yes, we're going to put you in the NFL, you're going to be the first-round pick that your talent says you can be. There's very few coaches in the country that can talk to Brent Venables and Todd Bates on that level. Like, there's not many that can match it.
Are there going to be any Deion Sanders battles with OU prospects?
God, I hope so. Just so we can say his name as often as possible and just watch our listener just skyrocket, especially on YouTube. It'll go nuts.
Like, if we could just start a war with Deion Sanders to where he just talks about us or at least mentions us.
That'd be great. Like, George can be our Colorado insider from his time in Denver. Like, he'll know. I love it. Just subversive as hell.
Woody Page told me today this.
Yeah, me and Woody aren't talking anymore. But
you started a brawl with him.
Fortunately,
when you left.
Yeah, I heard Woody Page said that.
Oh my God,
Jesus Christ! Is that wrong? Did I read that incorrectly?
Doesn't matter. We're bleeping that whole thing anyway. This second consecutive week, you have a long bleep in the podcast.
Well, it was last week.
What you're going to do? You're going to go into Walmart and do something.
Oh yeah. Well, that was I'm glad we bleeped that because that ended up turning out well for me.
Again, this is what my mom wanted me not to say on the pod. So
this is what she was worried about.
Yeah.
I'm surprised George even spoke there. He should have just sat in silence and be like, I actually wasn't there, Mom, for that part of the pod.
I left. I had gone to the restroom.
Okay, so are we through Junior Day? Because I got one more subject before we get out of here.
Yeah.
Combine. I think we all kind of sat around and watched. I don't know. You might have been in prime moving mode that weekend, George. But I was glued to it as I always am. Obviously Marvin Mims running a 4.38 is the highlight of all OU activity, unless you want to talk about the Wanye Morris injury.
Yeah, I thought Marvin had a great day. We didn't get to see. Didn't we predict Eric Gray and Braden Willis, and neither one of them even ran the 40? So we didn't
ruined our prediction last week. I mean,
so we'll have to watch for that on.
I'm dropping Eric Gray to a 4.99 now.
I was going to ask Josh, did you realize how I don't want to say small because Anton Harrison is not small, but I did see that his wingspan was not as big as I think maybe some anticipated. I've never seen him before, so I didn't know, but I saw something too that at his size, I don't think any any player's been drafted in the first round and played tackle with that small of a wingspan or something like that. I can't remember what it was exactly, but did you realize that, Josh?
Well, there was a hiccup. So somebody reported his arm length at like 31 and an eighth or something, which is like almost not physically possible for a man his size. And then they came back and was like, no, it's actually 34 and an eighth or something like that.
So I missed that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so 34 is completely fine. Like he can play ball there all day. But 31, like you're like, are you a carny? Like that's almost unbelievable. And I didn't see it at the time, but as a and I know Eddie and Carey have been around him even more than I have, and obviously since I have. But I knew the kid in high school and would have told you there's no way in hell he's got 31-inch arms. He's a fairly long kid. But yeah, no, that would have been an amazing thing if that would have actually been true.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I missed that, but it seems like he's moving up. Maybe I think he's gonna be a first round pick. If a team falls in love with him, and there's a lot of teams out there that
he's starting to show up on first round. Draft boards right now, or not draft boards, but mock drafts.
I mean, the Chiefs could take him at 32. I think the Bengals are at 28. Those are some teams that I would keep an eye on for him. And then I thought Jalen Redmond had a really really good day. And we've known he's sort of that freakish athlete, but it seemed like he did all the right things in preparing. I think he had a really good vertical and broad jump. I think he was right towards the top, maybe 1 or 2 in that category. And then also running the 40. And then you have the kids from Georgia. Some of those guys were just freaks out there. I think it was it Nolan Smith?
They like to race.
Yes.
He ran like a 4.4. It's like unbelievable. So.
And I love the people that are like, hey, Nolan Smith, like that kid, he didn't even have that great of a career. That dude was like a top 5 recruit in the country. He was the number 2 overall player. Like, again, stars matter. Like, there's a reason these guys get rated like this, because they are freakish athletes. And Nolan Smith is an absolute freak, like just is. So, I did want to say it still blows my mind, and I know we've talked about it before. If Anton Harrison is a first-round pick, he will be Bill Bedenbaugh's first ever. That's
wild.
Crazy.
That is crazy.
Almost unbelievable to a certain extent.
It really is. And I would be interested to see if you talk to whether it's GMs, scouting guys, or even like positional coaches, how do they factor that? Like, look at Creed Humphrey, look at Orlando Brown,
right.
Look at how well they're playing. Like, do they think about that kind of stuff?
Ben Powers.
I wonder how much that factors.
I mean, to a certain extent, it's a little unfair because I think, just for instance, Creed is an all-pro, and
Cody Ford was second round.
Probably
right?
could have been a first round. He should have been a first rounder, right?
Yeah.
It just, I guess it's kind of like, I don't know. It's a shocking stat. It's a shocking statistic that he's never had a first rounder.
Well, and he had, I want to say there were a couple of guys at Tech that made a couple of Pro Bowls, that were his former guys.
Luis Vasquez was.
Yeah.
He played on the Broncos. He won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, Cody Ford's probably the closest. He was a 38th overall. So just outside of the first round.
Creed should have been first round, and then Orlando. I think a lot of people thought he was going to be, and then he had. We talked about this last pod. He just had such a terrible combine that he kind of dropped.
Would he? But here's my question: Would Orlando, if teams could redraft now, would they still take him number 1? I mean, nobody wants to pay him that big contract. I mean, the Chiefs don't have the money. I mean, they're structured around Patrick Mahomes. They can't afford one of the biggest offensive, lineman contracts in the league. He's going to get paid by somebody, though.
It's just the NFL. There's just not. I mean, it's one of those positions, and everybody talks about it. But left
the
tackle,
new running back.
Yeah, I mean, it's. But there's not that many left tackles to go around. So the Chiefs have been able to figure it out, and they'll go out and get somebody or draft somebody, and they'll be fine because they have Patrick Mahomes. But as someone that covered the Broncos, they haven't figured out their tackle situation in since they won the Super Bowl. So it's tough, and I think that if you can draft one, you should, especially Orlando. I think he's going to be a 10-year guy in the league, at least.
Wherever he finds a new home with not being franchised or not being tagged over the course of this past
Somebody
week.
will pick him up.
I did run into Creed on Friday night He was back. He just got back from New York City after taping the thing with Saturday Night Live.
That was a great skit.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
It didn't make the original.
No, it wasn't
live,
in the show. Yeah.
But I think sometimes they do that though, just because they know
For the
it'll do so
YouTube
well on
part,
social
yeah.
media,
Yeah.
and it did. It blew up. So
It was awesome.
Did he show you the key to Shawnee, Eddie? Or
He hadn't gotten
no?
it yet. That was the next day.
Oh, they're having the big celebration.
The big
for-
celebration. Yeah, that was the next day.
I'm trying to think. Does Shawnee have like they got to have like one of the old style downtowns, right? Still.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, the last time that I was out there, it was somewhat. They just had it over at the Shawnee High School, though.
Oh, okay.
God, if your town is not between the high school football stadium and the highway, I have no idea what your town looks like. Now, you want to talk about high school stadiums? We can talk about those all day, but I think about that all the time. Like, Josh, where do you go when you go here? I'm like, man, if it's not between point A and point B, I have no idea because I'm just going to the next stadium.
The weirdest downtown I've been through recently is Antlers. That's a weird place. It's like the buildings look like they're made out of dead bodies. It's just it's a very strange place.
it's an odd
That's
way to
horrifying.
describe it.
Yeah,
It's not like brick and it's not like cement. It's like kind of like bark from a trees. It's like all golden brownish. It's turdy colored.
Pawhuska was cool, just didn't have a big statue of a pioneer woman.
So you were if they did, it'd be like the Harry Carey statue. There'd just be the souls of small children coming out from underneath her.
And nor should it. If she had a statue, I'd go tear it down.
Well, now, like this is just a feud that has started like this last week.
No, this has been years on
Okay.
years.
I let my hate for her go.
Why do we hate her? What have I missed?
It's just fun.
She
to
wouldn't.
hate Reed
Well,
Drummond.
no, because she wouldn't invite us to come do the morning radio show from the Reed Drummond camp or whatever.
Mainly, people hate that she pretends to be like this woman that lives out in the country when she's living off of massive oil and gas money, and then she went out of state to go to college and like was too good, but now she's back using Oklahoma like as a accessory.
Yeah, I think
to
it just
become
had more to
famous.
do with her not letting us come up to do the show from her kitchen. I don't really think it has anything to do with that.
That was my personal
do you think
beef.
that's a product of them being able to take advantage of how most people like assume Oklahoma is? They're like, oh yeah, everybody in Oklahoma has like 1,000 acres for their family
Right.
to go ride horses and like
and
that kind of
herd
stuff.
cattle all day, and then their husband comes home to a hot cooked meal that I made myself from a magazine.
Anybody from Oklahoma is like, no, they're rich as hell. Look at all that land. Like,
Yeah.
we know.
You ever heard of Phillips Drummond? It was a big oil company. Like, I mean, they had their own college in Bartlesville, for God's sakes.
Yeah, they do.
Is that still going? I thought it shut down.
I don't know. We'd have to ask my dad. I have no idea. I'm sure they've talked about this to me a million times.
Now, the Frank Lloyd Wright skyscraper is badass.
Yeah. We spent a lot of time out there. Murphy's Hot Hamburgers. That's the best place to eat out there in Bartlesville if you ever head out there.
Were they offended by
Pro
August
tip.
Osage County, the movie?
I don't think so. Carey, you've asked me a lot of questions on the podcast that I really don't know the answer to.
That's when he's having the most fun. Is when he can force you into a corner.
Your mom's going to have so much to say about these questions that I just asked you.
Yeah, I don't think she's going to be too happy, but that's all right.
What about August Osage County, a movie about incest? It's fantastic. That happens in Pawhuska?
No, but they are coming out with what's the one with DiCaprio?
Oh, yeah, they shot in Guthrie.
They shot some of it in Bartlesville, pretty sure.
Oh, that was in
Is that
Bartlesville.
the Killers of the Flower Moon?
Yeah.
That's the one. Is that not
That's
out yet?
great.
That's still not out yet?
I don't think so. I think it comes out maybe this summer.
All right.
Everything goes through Harvey these days in Hollywood.
What do you get, 18 years?
Yeah, I think so. For what, a misunderstanding? No, I'm just kidding. No, he's a scumbag.
Eddie said his mantra this morning before the podcast. I knew he was going to be on one.
What was the mantra?
It's not laughs, it's gasps.
Oh, yeah. It's a great line from Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
All right.
Right before Matt goes out on stage.
Are we done? Anything pressing to get out before we get out of here?
Eddie and I will be at a camp this weekend. We're going to go see Under Armour in Dallas. Bunch of elite dudes should be there. It should be a really good camp. Under Armour is really good about getting you a list. I don't have it yet, so I don't want to, commit anybody that may or may not be there yet. But I would, if there's less than a dozen OU offers, I'd be pretty surprised.
All right, that's going to do it. We'll be back again next week for another edition. It's spring break edition of the Unofficial
we should do
40
it from
podcast.
Cabo. Are we going to Cabo for spring
I don't want to
break?
get
I'm down for
kidnapped.
that.
No.
That's just if you go to Montemoris or whatever. Montemoris? Like right across. We're not going to Brownsville
You would
for
get
spring break.
kidnapped. The cartel would find out how many followers you had on Twitter, and they
As
would
much
come and get
business as I bring the cartel, I don't think so.
you. All right, that's going to do it. We'll be back again next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40 right here on Soonerscoop.com.